On this planet, no land belongs to one species forever. Same prey, same water source, and same boundaries never ceasing to shift. Those encounters have repeated across countless generations, on grasslands, in deep forests, and beside rivers. No treaties, no final victor. Only confrontations still continue, from one season to the next. Impala herd spreads out grazing, ears rotating continuously. Around them something lurks, and behind the lurker, another pair of eyes also silently watches. The plains have just awakened. Female cheetah lies flat on a mound, body dissolving into burnt grass color. Cold, sharp eyes lock tight on one impala that foolishly separated from the distant herd. Body lowered, shoulders tensed, it crawls forward centimeter by centimeter in silence. 300-meter distance keeps shortening until only within striking range. Then it launches. Slender body tears through yellow grass. So fast, 4 legs barely seem to touch ground. Less than half a minute later, Impala has collapsed amid dust. Cheetah holds prey only few beats, then releases, collapsing down, breathing heavily. Flanks heave violently, body too hot to lift itself immediately. Prey scent barely spreads before drawing another. Lioness stalks out. Cheetah only steps back. No growl, no contest. Lion hasn't finished tearing first bite when piercing howls echo in. Hyena pack surges up like a wave, forcing even the recent arrival to edge away from carcass. Cheetah stands watching from distance, seeing what it traded everything for fall into others' hands one by one. It caught prey with speed, but has never managed to keep it with strength. Yet in Asia's deep forests, there are those neither fast nor large who still make even fierce beasts wary. Indian rainforest, air thick with moisture. Dole pack lies scattered around tree roots. On termite mound, the sentry suddenly freezes. Wind just shifted direction. A Bengal tiger crosses through the forest. It isn't coming to contest prey, only passing through. But the land it considers its own is also where the Dole pack currently shelters. One sharp cry tears through leaf canopy. In just a moment, entire pack springs up, spreading into a wide arc, blocking the full path of the approaching presence. Tiger doesn't falter at all. One deep growl resonates through tree trunks. In response, from many directions, Dole pack's warning barks simultaneously ring out. Forest patch suddenly falls silent. One side is the forest's largest predator. Other side is an entire collective, standing pressed together. Neither advances, nor does either yield. Several minutes pass. Tiger's eyes sweep around the arc. Dole pack doesn't leave position, continuously signaling each other amid intermittent growls. Finally, Tiger turns away. It slowly vanishes amid dense tree trunks. Only when striped shadow completely disappears does forest return to its usual breathing rhythm. Numbers can force the strong to step back, but if both sides are strong and neither accustomed to yielding, The answer will be found in Yellowstone each autumn. In autumn, mist drapes valley. Wolfpack has just brought down an elk, now surrounding their prize, breath-puffing white vapor clouds. Mid-feast, lead wolf suddenly stiffens. Sound of dry branch snapping echoes from forest edge, the sound signaling a presence that only appears when cold season floods in. From brush, a grizzly bear lumbers out with massive shoulders. Before hibernation, it craves fat more than ever, and that feast is exactly what it wants. They face each other on snow surface. No growling, no wasted movement, only dense silence as both quietly measure the price of a battle. Bear edges one step forward. On snow surface, a dozen-plus gray shadows silently spread out, gradually retreating, not from fear, only because they understand this one isn't worth risking themselves against. It plops down beside elk carcass, leisurely eating each bite. Few steps away, wolves can only stand watching, bitterly seeing their own effort fall into another's hands. After consuming the choicest portions, bear finally lumbers away. Wolfpack silently moves in, gnawing remaining bones still scattered on snow under afternoon light. In the north, winter stretches across frozen forests. Here, two of the planet's strongest are about to meet. Far East taiga forest, when first season snow has just blanketed white. Bitterly cold, so quiet one can hear dry branches snapping in wind. For many days, a brown bear has continuously appeared in this forest. Its footprints stamped across all feeding grounds, where rarely does any creature large enough to openly remain. And this forest owner has recognized that. Since early morning, a Siberian tiger, the planet's largest cat, has silently tracked wide paw prints stamped on snow. Tracks lead to a snow-free clearing where bear is absorbed foraging. Tiger steps out from forest edge immediately. Bear rears high on hind legs, looming like a wall. Then silence explodes. Tiger springs like a striped blade, talons sweeping across bear's shoulder, scoring a deep mark through brown fur on grass surface. Bear roars ferociously, rears charging forward. Body weighing hundreds of kilos crashes down, pressing tiger back amid billowing snow. Entire forest seems to shake under the collisions. But tiger isn't easily subdued. It slips from gripping hold, spins, launching kick with both hind legs. Bear staggers back, exposing a gap between the two. Both stand facing each other once more. Bear's shoulder bears deep claw marks, one side of tiger's ear injured. White breath curls up amid bitterly cold space. Then both turn away simultaneously. No winner, no loser either. Behind them, snow slowly covers all traces of the encounter between two northern lords. Tiger and bear can still turn their backs, each heading a different direction. But there are two species that, even wanting to, can never truly escape each other. On East African plains, lions and hyenas are two parallel powers, hunting same prey, walking same trails, and despising each other more than any other. That confrontation doesn't only revolve around food. Even the next generation becomes a target in this battle. When a hyena pack makes a kill, their noise carries far, summoning lion pride to arrive and steal outright every achievement. The true hunter often returns empty-handed. But the moment lion pride lacks its males, balance immediately reverses. Large hyena pack will surround, press, reclaim every inch of ground and every bite of food. Rarely does one side win absolutely. One male lion appearing can scatter an entire hyena pack, but sufficient numbers, when large enough, can force even the plains king to retreat. Day after day, dry season, then rainy season, balance keeps tilting back and forth. Today, this side gains advantage. Tomorrow, it's the other side's turn. And across millions of years, both still run parallel on that same grassland. Two enemies unable to coexist, but also unable to separate. One lap around the world, each land has its own eternal rivals. Not from hatred, but because they need the same thing to survive. Some species win through speed, some rely on numbers, some lean on strength. Each place tempers its own unique survival path. Across thousands of generations, they compete while inadvertently shaping each other. Each hunt, each encounter, quietly hones those standing on the other side of the battle line. And that is perhaps nature's final law. Rivals don't exist to erase each other, but to keep the balance perpetually continuing. From above, the East African savanna appears as an endless golden canvas, where the shadow of large wings glides silently in parallel with a dark streak moving close to the ground. Beneath an acacia tree, a pride of lions rests after a meal. Bloodstains still ring their mouths, completely unaware of the brown eagle circling overhead and gradually lowering its arc. Under the low grass nearby, a black mamba nearly 3 meters long slides across a trail, carrying in its fangs enough venom to kill 10 grown adults. The eagle suddenly folds its wings and dives, talons driving straight into the mamba's midsection. Wind screams through the feathers as the large shadow rapidly covers the grass below. Talons pin the target to the red dust. The mamba immediately coils in resistance, whipping its head around at extreme speed, its venom-loaded fangs ready to strike. The mamba tightens around the eagle's wing, locking it in place and leaving the eagle thrashing helplessly as the venomous fangs continue searching for an angle on the neck. The eagle pecks repeatedly into the snake's body, but each strike only causes the mamba to tighten further. Two bodies roll across the red earth, dust billowing in clouds, feathers and scales tangling together. The sound of the violent struggle causes the lion pride to raise their heads. Two females rise and move slowly forward, curiously watching the cloud of red dust rolling up along the trail. One lowers its muzzle toward the brawl. The mamba immediately releases the eagle's wing, rears its head high, spreads its hood wide, and lets out a loud hiss of warning. The lioness stops. It recognizes that what stands before it is not prey, but a venomous threat. The mamba slowly slides out of the red dust and disappears into the low grass. The eagle snaps upright, spreading wings that are now slightly misaligned. Both lions still stand nearby as it fans its neck feathers and opens its beak in warning after the life or death struggle. The two lions advance no further. The eagle quickly gathers itself and labors heavily off the ground, circling once before fading into the rising thermals above the savanna. Beneath the low grass, the mamba has vanished, leaving behind a patch of earth that even the top of the food chain chose to avoid. In the end, all three species walked away. No true winner, only creatures that understood survival sometimes matters more than continuing the fight. Far from the red patch of earth, a secretary bird, nearly 1.3 meters tall, strides across the blazing grassland, its scale-armored legs ready for snake hunts across the ground. For this bird, the legs are the weapon, thick scales resistant to venom and kicks of tremendous force, moving steadily through the dry grass in search of the next prey. Ahead, a cobra nearly 2 meters long slides across open ground. The secretary bird immediately halts, lowers its neck, and holds a safe distance. The cobra quickly rears up, spreads its hood wide, and opens its mouth in a threat display. But the secretary bird only steps slowly sideways, forcing the snake to rotate with it. The snake suddenly lunges forward, but the moment its body is fully extended, a strike like a thunderbolt drives straight into its midsection, slamming the cobra down onto the red earth. On the next attack, the secretary bird again leaps backward at the right moment and delivers a reverse kick into the oncoming head, sending the snake staggering. By the third exchange, the cobra is slower. A kick straight down to the top of the head sends the snake's body thrashing across the ground, unable to raise its neck again. The secretary bird delivers a few more decisive kicks, then picks up the cobra's body and walks on across the grassland, as though the hunt just completed was nothing more than a routine part of the afternoon. It will continue sweeping through the grass until dusk, using its long legs and patience to bring down one snake after another with precise strikes. The sun-scorched grassland belongs to those who hunt from above. But to the west, among red rocks and scorching thorn bushes, another snake hunter appears, one that works at ground level through pure speed. A semi-desert stretches with cracked red rock and scattered cactus, as a small shape darts through the gaps in the stones so fast that the dust has not yet risen before it is gone. That is the roadrunner, a bird that hunts with long legs, a tail like a rudder, and a ground speed exceeding 40 kilometers per hour rather than wings. Ahead, a desert snake slides across open ground. The roadrunner spots the prey and immediately changes course, driving straight toward it without slowing. The snake quickly coils into a defensive posture, but the roadrunner simply circles continuously, forcing the opponent to keep changing direction until the movements of head and body begin to fall out of sync. The snake's strike misses. The moment its head extends forward, the roadrunner has already looped behind it, driving its beak hard into the back of the neck and slamming the snake's body against the red rock. Keeping the prey gripped in its beak, the roadrunner repeatedly slams the snake's body against the rock until the entire body goes limp and stops responding. Right where the chase ends, the hunter begins eating its prey. Each portion of the snake's body disappears between strong jerks and steady swallowing. On this arid land, the window of survival is always brief. Just minutes ago, a living creature was finding its way to survive. Now it has become the energy source sustaining another life. Across the savanna and semi-desert, each bird hunts in its own way. One uses talons, one relies on the force of its kicks, and the roadrunner depends entirely on speed. Every snake hunt between savanna and semi-desert is a gamble, because just one successful bite from a black mamba or a cobra is enough to end the hunter permanently. The eagle survived that morning because the mamba's fangs glanced off the thick neck feathers. Had they pierced the skin, the venom would have brought it down from the sky within minutes. For the secretary bird, the leg scales are the final line between life and death, because if the cobra could reach the unprotected thigh, the outcome would be entirely different. The roadrunner is different. No armor, no grip strength, only raw speed. Every loop around the snake is a bet of its life for the sake of its young. The brown eagle perches on a dry branch, wings pressed to its body, waiting for the bruised muscles to recover after the struggle. Further out in the afternoon grassland, the secretary bird still paces slowly through the yellow grass, knowing snakes are most active as temperatures begin to fall. Across the semi-desert, the mother roadrunner continues driving through the scorching rock crevices to find food. And beneath the acacia tree, the lions still lie there. And every time the wind stirs the grass ahead, they immediately raise their heads and look toward the place where the mamba once disappeared. Tomorrow, the eagle will circle the sky again. The secretary bird will step through the yellow grass, and the roadrunner will continue racing through the red rock. But the snakes will continue to exist as well. The race between talon and venom has no finish line, only the next round. When the last ray of sunlight leaves the savanna, the mamba still slides silently through the wind-stirred grass, fast enough and venomous enough that no one wants to cross its path a second time. The grassland of southern Africa, in the middle of the dry season, earth cracked open in great patches, grass burned flat, and the last water source vanished many weeks ago. But deep beneath the dry surface, a creature still exists. Its body nearly shut down, metabolism drastically reduced to hold on to its last reserves of moisture. Through months without eating or drinking, heart beating slowly, waiting for the familiar signal that will wake the body back to life. The sky to the west begins to darken, black clouds rolling low and carrying a damp wind. Then the first drops of rain fall onto the dry earth and seep into the cracks. The rain grows heavier, softening the parched soil, water pooling in small patches across the cracked surface, carrying moisture and new vitality to the arid land. Then the earth stirs. A crack widens, mud bursts upward, and from below, a large head with amber eyes slowly rises after months of concealment. The African bullfrog has a body as dense as a mass of muscle sunk in mud, jaws occupying nearly half its head, lined with small spike-like teeth. Once prey has entered, there is no escape. A body not built for running, it only needs to lie still and wait for prey to come to it. And after months of starvation, the hunting instinct rises back with full force. Small insects crawl across the wet mud. Another bullfrog lies watching the ground, its body blending almost completely into the mud color. A millipede passes close. The bullfrog's mouth snaps open, tongue fires out, jaws close. From the moment the prey touches down to the moment it disappears takes half a second. 10 minutes. Dozens of insects have vanished. The frog makes use of the brief rainy days to rapidly recover the energy burned away through the entire dry season. But insects are only the appetizer. For them, anything that fits in the mouth is food. And around the newly formed water pools, larger prey gradually appears. A field mouse steps out from the wet grass, searching for seeds along the water's edge, nose down low, completely unaware that death is waiting just ahead. It takes one more step, then the mud explodes. The frog's mouth snaps open, swallowing the mouse whole, locking every struggle down with the sharp teeth lining its mouth. The eyeballs press downward to help push the prey deeper into the throat. The mouse disappears, hind legs kicking weakly, then going still. The belly swells, but the mouth is already ready for the next one. 2 weeks after the rain, the savanna is drying again. Insects and small reptiles are more active, and the bullfrog has left the water pool, sitting motionless like a lump of dry mud on the red earth. A small snake slides past, just 20 centimeters away, tongue flickering, head raised to probe the environment. It is still too small to recognize the danger directly in front of it. The snake glides across the frog's field of view. A strike launches upward, misses. Red earth flies up as the prey attacks and tries to find a way out. The second lunge lands true. Jaws lock onto the head, spiked teeth drive deep. The snake's body coils and tightens around the frog, but is pressed flat against the ground. The frog begins to swallow. The grassland returns to quiet. The frog, lying still under the warm sun, belly rounded and full, beginning the slow process of digestion after a series of heavy meals under the sunlight slowly returning. The rainy season brings not only food, but the opportunity to breed, when all activity must happen quickly before the last drop of water disappears. At the largest water pool in the area, dozens of males gather, throats swelling as deep calls roll across the savanna, drawing females and staking out control of the breeding center. The strongest male holds the central position where the water is deepest, while others ram, press, and bite each other to win the only chance to continue their lineage. When the female arrives, mating is quick. Eggs are fertilized immediately and cling to moss and grass, beginning a life cycle that must outrace the receding water. Tadpoles hatch, thousands of tiny bodies swimming frantically in the warming pool, eating algae and each other to grow, because their life cycle is shorter than the pool sustaining them. Many weeks pass. The harsh sun returns. The pool shrinks day by day from a wide pond to a small puddle. Tadpoles packed together in a life source that is steadily running out. And in the middle of the shrinking pool, the father frog stays. He looks at the mud ridge dividing two pools of water, then quietly uses his hind legs to break through the mud, channeling his young through to the water on the other side. After hours of digging mud, under the blazing sun, his strength is spent, skin dry, eyes half closed. Yet he has held on to the chance of life for thousands of tadpoles. A smaller frog enters the territory being guarded. But for the bullfrog, a smaller member of its own species can sometimes also become food. The lunge happens quickly and decisively. As the dry season turns back, the instinct to protect and the instinct to hunt exist within the same body. Tadpoles begin to grow legs, some metamorphosing into frogs in fewer than 3 weeks, fingernail-sized, leaving the muddy pool to step into the high-risk world above the waterline. But the moment they reach the bank, the young frogs face hunting birds, snakes around the water's edge, and other adult frogs, because when hungry, this species does not distinguish its own kind. Most do not survive the first week. Of thousands of eggs, only a few will still be alive by the following rainy season. But those that remain will grow into monsters like their father. The pool has dried completely. The last tadpoles have left, and the father frog gazes silently at the empty patch of earth, sitting at the edge of dry mud, sensing the heat of the dry season slowly returning. Then the old instinct wakes. It begins to dig, hind legs driving hard, body sinking gradually into the hardening mud, preparing for the next long sleep. Mud slowly covers the back, the head, then both eyes, leaving behind a water-retaining membrane that gradually encases the body like a survival cocoon for the dry months ahead. The earth cracks open again, grass burns flat under the scorching sun. The water pools vanish entirely, and deep below the dry ground, the bullfrog lies still with a slowing heart, waiting for the next rain. A young frog that survived the rainy season sits near the drying bank. No larger than a coin, it has just caught its first ant. Life starts here. If it survives the first dry season, it will burrow into a mud cocoon like its parents, then emerge after the rains, larger, stronger, with a mouth that grows wider with every hunting season. The hot wind sweeps across the savannah. The cracked, dry earth is completely silent, but deep below, hundreds of bullfrogs lie still inside their own water-retaining membranes. And that is how the African bullfrog survives. The most voracious predator on the savannah is also the one that buries itself in a sleep lasting many months, just to exchange it for a handful of opportunities. Field mice still search for seeds. Grass snakes still hunt, completely unaware that the danger sleeping beneath their feet needs only one rain to open its mouth. The rainy season will return, perhaps soon, perhaps late. But without needing to know the timing, it only needs to feel the first vibration when water touches the earth. The first raindrop will fall, the earth will soften, pools will form, insects will surge, and from beneath the cracks, amber eyes will open again, beginning a new hunting season. But for now, the grassland is still dry and hot, and deep beneath the dark earth, it still lies there, waiting. The ground trembles faintly. Not rain yet, only wind moving through the grass. But sooner or later, the water will return, and it will be here when that happens. A North American marsh wrapped in thin early morning mist, reeds swaying softly in the breeze. Amid the shallow water, a tall figure appears, its blue-gray plumage blending into the marsh backdrop. In the middle of the wetland, the great blue heron emerges like a living spear, over 1.2 meters tall with a wingspan of nearly 2 meters, standing in silence, waiting for prey to step into range. As the early sun warms the water, a school of small fish swims past a submerged grass clump. The heron still motionless, only its amber eyes slowly tracking every movement below the surface. One fish separates from the school, closer still. The curved neck slowly lowers, each vertebra locking into position like a spring being quietly compressed. Then the neck releases in an instant. The head drives into the water like a lance. The surface explodes, and when the head rises again, a fish is pinned sideways in the long beak. It rotates the fish to the right angle and swallows it whole, a small bulge traveling down the throat. The body returns to its familiar posture, waiting for the next movement. But fish are only the simplest item on the great blue heron's menu. This elegant bird can swallow nearly anything that fits within its beak, which is over 20 centimeters long. At midday, a water snake slides along the grassy bank at the marsh's edge, seeking shade, unaware that it is moving toward a predator that even its own parents would avoid. The heron spots the snake, but does not lunge. It only paces slowly across the mud, quietly circling to cut off the prey's route back to the water. The snake raises its head and recognizes the danger, immediately turns to flee. But the S-curved neck has already lowered, ready to fire before the next movement. The beak drives down, the snake immediately coils tight around it. The great blue heron shakes sideways, then slams the prey hard against the surface, the mud. By the final slam, the snake's body begins to go limp, the coil loosening. The hunter shakes hard until the snake falls free of the beak, then grips it again and begins the process of swallowing. Several minutes of struggle disappear as quickly as they began. It stands motionless in the shallows once more, neck curved, feathers smooth, amber eyes already tracking the next movement. To the south of the marsh, where the water is deeper and the mud softer, a young American alligator, less than 30 centimeters long, glides slowly along the water's edge, learning to stalk and hunt. Only a few months old, it is still far too small to be at the top of the food chain, while it remains a target itself for larger creatures watching from around the marsh. The young alligator moves to the shallows, stops to observe, its underdeveloped hunting instinct leading it to mistake the gray shape ahead for nothing more than a dry log. It swims 1 more meter, then half a meter. The neck lowers, so slowly the water makes no ripple, locking onto the small creature busy paddling through the mud. In the blink of an eye, the beak clamps onto the baby alligator's body before it can react, then slams it repeatedly against the water. The prey struggles weakly and gradually goes still. The young alligator goes motionless. The creature that would have become the lord of the marsh has just disappeared into the mouth of a bird. It would have frightened away once fully grown. As afternoon comes and the water warms, creatures grow more active, and to the north of the marsh, a mother mallard and her ducklings swim slowly through the still water in single file. One duckling is pulled sideways by the current, falling behind, small feet kicking frantically, opening a dangerous gap between it and the protection of the group. The gray shape changes direction, unhurried, each step aimed directly toward the straggling duckling, while the mother continues swimming ahead, completely unaware the group is now one short. The prey swims across its path. One single movement, the beak snaps shut instantly, the yellow down disappears into splashing water, and the mother turns in alarm. The heron raises its head and swallows the duckling whole, leaving a flat water surface behind. The mother circles, searching uselessly, then continues moving as though nothing was lost. The heron stands motionless, the small ripples slowly fading. In a single day, several different prey have passed one after another through this hunting ground. The belly is not yet full. The stance in the middle of the marsh remains, because in the water around it, almost every movement can become food. Late afternoon, the heron's shadow stretches long across the water as a small frog touches a lily pad near the marsh's edge and vanishes instantly. It does not hunt by species, it hunts by opportunity, where any creature that appears at the right distance, the right size, at the right moment can disappear. Its weapon is not fang or talon, but a curved neck that can compress and then release in a flash, leaving prey no time to react. But speed is only half of it. The other half lies in the ability to stand completely still for so long that many creatures fail to recognize the danger standing right beside them. Long toes distribute its weight across the soft mud surface, allowing it to move silently through the hunting zone without being detected. In the low afternoon light, the heron continues moving into deeper water, where larger prey appears, reading the entire marsh like a living hunting map. A larger fish swims slowly near the bottom. The great blue heron watches from above, adjusting its angle of view to compensate for water refraction with high precision. It releases the neck. The head drives deeper than this morning. The large fish is pinned sideways in the beak, thrashing hard. The heron slams the prey into the water, stunning the fish, then swallows it whole. The belly grows heavier, the steps slower, but the eyes remain alert. Any creature that swims past triggers an automatic attack reflex. 7 hunts in a single day. No selecting by species, only selecting by distance. No chasing, only waiting. And when the moment comes, everything ends in the blink of an eye. Below the surface, life continues normally for fish and frogs, while the mother alligator can only protect her young within the limits of her own field of view. The mother duck leads her ducklings into dense reeds to reduce risk. But the marsh always holds more danger, and the 7 that exist today may be 6 tomorrow. The heron still stands motionless in the marsh, neck curved, eyes open like a living statue. But inside the stomach are bones, scales, and feathers, and The water surface reflects the heron's slender silhouette, but beneath the mud, organic remains are decomposing, gradually converting into the nutrients that sustain this entire ecosystem. That cycle maintains the recurring rhythm of hunting, as species continuously appear around the heron's feeding zone, forming a stable but ever-changing system of participants. The heron spreads its wide wings, glides low across the marsh surface, then settles onto the reed bed bank in the last of the afternoon light, completing a full day of hunting. The marsh slowly shifts its rhythm, smaller creatures becoming more active as the gray shape in the water has departed, reopening the space for the natural pulse of life to resume. Tomorrow morning, when the first ray of sunlight touches the water, the heron will already be standing motionless in the marsh, while a fish unknowingly swims gradually into striking range. But the rhythm of life in the marsh continues by natural instinct, as species keep moving through the water where the heron typically lies in ambush to hunt. The marsh landscape is nearly unchanged: shallow water, soft mud, and softly swaying reeds, concealing a motionless yet supremely effective predator. Dawn's light touches the Serengeti plains, grass lush green after night rain, air fresh and clear. But this beauty conceals ever-lurking danger. Here, each day is a survival test: predator and prey, defender and attacker, a battle that never rests. But today, the story isn't about great hunters, it's about a mother and fragile new life that needs protection. This is the story of a rhino calf. First survival lessons from the moment of birth. In the wild world, every small mistake can be paid for with death. The black rhinoceros is one of 5 rhino species still existing on Earth. Weighing nearly 2 tons, standing about 1.6 meters tall, like a living fortress on the grassland. The horn can grow up to 1 meter long, made of keratin, like human fingernails, but hard and sharp as a natural spear. The calf, just 3 weeks old, weighs only about 60 kilograms. No horn yet, can't run fast, completely dependent on mother's protection. Rhino calf survival rate in the first year is only 50%. Lions, hyenas, crocodiles, and sometimes even adult males. The first months are the most vulnerable period. The calf is slow, reflexes delayed, yet curious to explore, easily separated from mother. That's when predators wait. The mother rhino always keeps her calf within her protective zone. The calf moves behind or close beside mother's body, like a small shadow hidden behind a living fortress. Midday, the mother rhino leads her calf to a water hole to drink and mud bathe. But water sources are also dangerous places, where predators patiently wait. She stops before entering the water, sniffs the air, listens to every small sound, eyes scanning around like a living radar in the grassland. In nearby bushes, 3 hyenas are watching. They've been tracking the mother and calf since morning, patiently waiting for the moment the calf separates from protection. Spotted hyenas are opportunistic hunters. They rarely attack adult rhinos, but a slow-moving calf is an entirely different target. The mother rhino senses danger, pushes the calf behind her, assuming defensive stance like a living wall. One hyena tries approaching from the left. The mother rhino pivots, keeping the calf always behind her body, like a rotating shield before every direction of danger. The calf cries out in fear. The mother rhino responds with a deep rumble, like a heavy warning resonating through the hot air. One hyena suddenly charges forward, not aiming to kill immediately, but to harass and test reaction, like a probe piece on the chessboard of survival. But the mother rhino doesn't fall for it. She doesn't chase, doesn't leave position, just pivots with each predator movement, always keeping the calf behind. 10 tense minutes pass. Hyenas try approaching from different directions, but never once reach the calf. One hyena decides to take a risk. It charges straight at high speed, aiming for the small gap between mother and calf. A life or death gamble. The mother rhino reacts almost instantly. 2 tons of muscle launches forward, reaching nearly 50 kilometers per hour like a living tank. The predator can't dodge in time. The horn sweeps and strikes its flank. The 2 remaining hyenas immediately retreat. They understand the balance of power. This hunt isn't worth the price. The mother rhino turns back, sniffs every centimeter of her calf, licks gently as a reassuring gesture. The calf still trembles, but uninjured. First lesson recorded. Days later, a pride of lionesses appears near the foraging area, multiple individuals coordinating the hunt, far more dangerous than solitary hyenas. Lionesses are the savannah's professional hunters. When hunting as a group, they can surround from multiple directions, cutting off prey's escape routes. The mother rhino doesn't run. Running would expose her back and separate her from the calf. She pivots slowly, keeping the calf at the center like the heart of a fortress. Lions advance cautiously, step by step. They know adult rhinos are extremely dangerous, but the calf is too tempting a prize. The calf is terrified, instinct urging it to flee, but memory from the hyena encounter makes it stay, pressing close to mother's body within the circle of safety. One lioness tries to charge in, lightning fast, but the mother rhino is faster. She spins and thrusts hard. The horn sweeps past, forcing the lioness to leap back. The confrontation lasts 20 minutes. The lion pride tries approaching multiple times from different directions, but the mother rhino's defense shows no opening. Finally, the lionesses stop. Their energy expenditure too great, risk too high. In nature, predators must always calculate. When the lion pride leaves, the mother rhino finally relaxes, breathing heavily, body exhausted, but the calf remains safe. And that's the only victory needed. In the following weeks, the calf grows significantly. It learns to position itself correctly when danger appears and learns to read signals from mother. At 3 months old, the calf has nearly doubled in weight. It runs faster and has better reflexes, but still needs mother like a compass for guidance. Each encounter with predators is a new lesson. In the wild world, experience is the strictest but most effective teacher. But rhinos face greater challenges. Horn poaching, habitat loss, and climate change are pushing this species to the brink. Only about 5,500 black rhinos remain in the wild, down 98% from 4 decades ago, making them critically endangered. Conservation areas are making efforts. Rangers patrol against poachers 24 hours, monitoring each individual to protect both mother rhinos and calves. Rhinos play crucial roles in the ecosystem. When moving through thickets, they create natural pathways, helping many other species access food and water. Thanks to conservation programs, by 2026 rhino calf survival rates have increased slightly. However, the black rhino's recovery journey remains very long. When the sun sets over the African savanna, the mother rhino leads her calf to rest. Another day has passed, and another day they've survived. The calf lies close beside mother, safe and warm. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, but today they've won their own battle. In the silence of the grassland, a lesson is quietly rewritten. A mother's protective instinct is strong as an unbreakable fortress. Every surviving calf is a victory, not just for the individual, but for the species' future on this planet. Under Africa's gentle moonlight, the mother rhino remains vigilant, because she knows the calf beside her isn't just her offspring, but the last hope of an entire species. Through the still water blanketing the surface of the marsh, where the light of dawn barely touches a few inches of the waterline, a sound of heavy breathing rises from the reeds. It is not the sound of fish breaking the surface, nor the wind moving through the grass. It is the breath of a creature, watching your every move. Okavango does not welcome you. It tests you, and whoever hesitates will not have time to understand where they went wrong. Welcome to Okavango, not a river, not a lake. This is a survival machine powered by floodwater, sunlight, and blood. A place where every flood season is a rebirth, and every nightfall is a survival contest that no one is allowed to lose. Here, humans, are only observers. No privileges, no protection. Only the naked truth of nature. Before going deeper into this journey, If you carry within you the fire of the wild, subscribe now so you never miss a thing. Because what lies ahead is not a sightseeing tour. This is a survival challenge in the heart of Africa's greatest flood delta. If Okavango has a king, it is not the species that swims the fastest. It is the species that dares to wade through deep water to claim the right to rule. With a body weighing over 200 kilograms and a jaw force exceeding 300 kilograms, the lions of Okavango bring down a water buffalo like a giant vice, clamping shut and never letting go. But their true strength is not in the strike. They are population controllers that help maintain the balance between the buffalo herds and the vegetation across the entire delta. In Okavango, lions do not hunt in the usual way. They ambush from floating grass islands. Each move forward a silent chess game. The pride splits into groups. One side creates noise to herd the prey. The other lies waiting in silence. This tactic has been passed down through generations of Okavango lion prides. But this land is shrinking. Poaching and agricultural fencing fragment territories. Lion prides grow smaller and no longer carry enough genetic diversity to survive. The lions of Okavango, who have learned to live with water, are now learning to live with a threat they cannot hunt: the disappearance of their own home. Okavango draws a long breath, and in the distance, another call begins to rise. If the lion is the king of strength, then the African wild dog is the genius of the collective, the only species that wins through discipline, not muscle. Weighing only 25 kilograms, yet with a hunting success rate of up to 80%, higher than both lions and leopards. Their weapon is not fang and claw, but perfect coordination requiring no language. They are the engine of the ecosystem. Each hunt moves the prey herds, creating a cycle of rotation that allows the grasslands of Okavango to recover and spread. Before a hunt, the entire pack performs a ritual. They lick each other's faces, heads touching heads, not out of affection, but as a combat ceremony. After that, no one leaves anyone behind. They share food first with the young and the sick, the only species in Okavango that places care for others above its own needs. Fewer than 6,600 individuals remain across all of Africa. Rabies, from domestic dogs, farmers' snares, and habitat loss, are wiping out the continent's most skilled hunters. Every wild dog pack is a miniature society. When a pack disappears, it is not just animals that are lost. An entire culture of hunting built across generations is lost with them. Night falls over Okavango, and beneath the water, something older, colder, begins to move. If the lion is king on land, and the wild dog is the master tactician, then the crocodile is the primal darkness of Okavango, the species that witnessed the extinction of the dinosaurs and is still here. The crocodile's jaws generate a bite force exceeding 1,700 kilograms, more than any living creature on Earth. A single roll of the body underwater tears apart anything in just 3 seconds. But the crocodile is not only a destroyer, they are natural canal diggers. Their sleeping hollows create water pools that help hundreds of species survive through the dry season. Crocodiles do not give chase. They wait, sometimes for hours, even days, until the prey steps close enough that no escape remains. When they strike, there is no warning, no running start, only the water breaking open for one beat, and everything is already over. Despite existing for over 200 million years, the crocodiles of Okavango are losing their habitat. Water pollution and agricultural land conversion are shrinking the living space of the oldest surviving reptile on Earth. A species that has survived 5 mass extinctions now faces a threat that no evolution can defend against: human indifference. The water surface goes flat again, but just nearby, a heavier breath, a larger body, begins to rise. But the story does not stop with predators. As we leave the shallows, another world begins to reveal itself. The world of the giants that lie beneath the surface. This is the deep water of Okavango, where light does not reach the bottom, and anyone who enters cannot determine where they stand in the food chain. The floodwater does not only bring fish and plants, it brings the hippopotamus, a species weighing 4 tons, the most aggressive and most important creature in the entire delta ecosystem. If the crocodile is the silent darkness, then the hippopotamus is a moving storm. And the next part of this journey will take us straight into the eye of that storm. The hippo does not need to hunt to become the most dangerous creature in Okavango. It is dangerous simply because it exists, and no species is allowed to forget that. Weighing over 4 tons, capable of running at 30 kilometers per hour on land, jaws that open to 180 degrees. Hippos kill more people in Africa than any other large animal, including lions. But the hippo is a nutrient pump. Every day they deposit hundreds of kilograms of organic matter into Okavango, feeding the algae, feeding the fish, and sustaining the entire food chain below. Male hippos mark territory by spinning their tails and spraying dung, the clearest and most undeniable boundary language Okavango has ever known. When territory is violated, there is no negotiation. 2 males crash into each other, jaw against jaw, the sound of impact splitting the air until one submits or flees. But hippos are disappearing. Prolonged drought, declining flood levels, and ivory poaching are pushing this species toward the endangered list. An Okavango without hippos would be a dead river. Newborn hippo calves need clean water to breathe. When the water is polluted, when flood levels no longer rise high enough, the survival rate of the next generation drops to catastrophic levels. The water rises, the water recedes, and in that cycle, nothing is permanent. Every strength has its limit. Every territory has its end. Here, speed no longer matters. Strength no longer matters. The survivor is the one who can read Okavango, knowing when to be still, when to strike, when to step back. Tonight, the lions have cornered a buffalo herd at the water's edge. The crocodiles are waiting below. The wild dogs stand at the rim of the darkness, and the hippos do not care about any of them. A sound. The buffalo herd breaks in every direction. Water explodes upward. And in that chaos, Okavango takes its share, as it has done for millions of years. The loser of tonight will vanish without a trace. Only the ripple of water spreading outward, and the silence of Okavango answers everything. Everything you have just witnessed is not a collection of separate stories. Okavango is a living organism, and every species is an irreplaceable cell within it. Lions control the buffalo herds. Wild dogs distribute prey across the territory. Crocodiles dig canals. Hippos nourish the water. Switch off one, and the entire system will tilt. Okavango does not exist because of floodwater. It exists because of balance. A balance rewritten over millions of years, now being erased in just a few centuries. And when one link disappears, it is not just one species that is lost. It is an entire ecological symphony that has never been written before and will never be written again. But the most dangerous creature in Okavango is not the lion, not the crocodile, not the hippo. It is us, the only species that destroys without needing to be hungry. Hydroelectric systems upstream are regulating the flow. Less floodwater means less grassland, fewer fish, less life, diminishing at every level, multiplying downward. Poaching does not only kill animals, it shatters social structures. Lion prides lose their leaders, wild dog packs lose their memory, hippos lose their guide generation. And the price to be paid is not only nature's to bear. When Okavango dies, the millions of people who depend on its water and tourism will lose everything. When the lion's roar fades into the night, when the wild dog pack disappears behind the curtain of grass, when the water surface returns to calm as though nothing ever happened. The question that remains is not, what have we discovered? It is, do we have enough time to change? Before the answer becomes a permanent silence. What will we have left when Okavango no longer floods? When the greatest survival machine in Africa finally runs out of fuel? Okavango is still here, still flowing, still alive. But for how long depends on the answer we choose to give today. If this journey has made you shudder, left you unsettled, or simply made it impossible to look at Okavango the same way again, leave a comment below. And until next time, at the next brutal survival arenas, where nature does not ask if you are ready, it is dawn on an African riverbank. The water has not yet turned blue. A thin layer of mist clings low to the surface, refusing to disappear. Everything is waiting for the day to begin. A gray heron stands motionless on a rock near the shore, not hunting, not moving, just standing there, as if it understands that mornings here demand silence. Nearby, an antelope drinks, small sips, head down, then up again, scanning its surroundings in a rhythm repeated thousands of times before. This is a place every animal must come to, and every one of them must pay some kind of price for a drink. That price is never announced in advance. Lions, the dominant predators of the African savanna. Strength, speed, coordinated hunting. On land, few animals can confront them directly and come out on top. This pride has several cubs under 3 months old. At this age, their brains are still in the phase of exploration, even toward things their instincts have not yet learned to name. The lioness stops about 5 meters from the water's edge. She looks left, then right, then along the surface. It is a habit, but not a complete safety check. Beneath the water, another sensory system is already at work. Along the crocodile's jaws and body are thousands of pressure receptors. It knew the lions were coming before it ever saw them. The Nile crocodile, a reptile that existed long before the dinosaurs disappeared. And it still hunts this way because it has never needed to change. A crocodile does not hunt in the usual sense. It does not chase. It does not surround. It does not need a complicated plan. It simply waits until the target brings itself within reach. The lioness scans the area one more time. The surface is calm, no unusual sound. She allows the pride to approach and drink. It is the most reasonable decision she can make with the information she has. And that is exactly the problem. This is a problem with no perfect answer. The pride needs water to survive the day. That need cannot be postponed. But every trip to the riverbank means accepting a risk that can never be fully controlled. The smallest cub drifts away. It moves closer to the water's edge than the others. The distance from its mother grows, 10 meters, 12, 15. No one notices. The lioness is splitting her attention between the others and her own need to drink. One animal cannot monitor 4 directions with equal precision at the same time. The bend in the river and the sudden drop near the bank erase the usual warning signs. Lions have no way of reading the underwater terrain, so their ability to judge danger is limited. The early morning light gives the crocodile an even greater ambush advantage. And when several disadvantages stack together, the cub's chances of becoming prey rise sharply. The cub edges closer, crossing into the danger zone. Beneath the surface, the crocodile adjusts its posture without creating a ripple. This is the moment when 2 worlds are separated by only a thin layer of water. On one side, curiosity and exploration. On the other, a waiting strategy refined over millions of years. The attack comes without warning. The crocodile's jaws clamp shut in less than half a second, with enough force to lock onto the cub's forelimb instantly. The lioness reacts at once, covering roughly 15 meters in under 2 seconds, her roar tearing across the riverbank. But by then, the cub is already being dragged into the water. The crocodile does not need to kill on land. It only needs to pull the prey into the water. Once there, every advantage shifts completely, and the lioness knows that. She charges in up to her shoulders, slamming at the surface. But there is nothing there, only water. And beneath it, her cub is being pulled in a direction she cannot follow. She stops. No more roaring. She simply stands there, shoulder deep in a river that is not hers, staring into the surface with helpless eyes. Below, the crocodile has not yet dragged the cub into safe depth. The cub is still struggling, not from conscious decision, but from the body's raw mechanical reflex against the pull. The lioness manages to bite the crocodile's tail, the only part still within reach. The bite is not enough to injure it, but enough to throw it off for a second. The crocodile responds with a death roll, spinning violently. The lioness is forced to let go, but the twisting changes the angle of the bite, and in that brief instant, the cub slips free. The lioness drags the cub back onto the bank. She does not stop. She does not look back. She retreats farther and farther from the edge until her paws are fully on dry ground. The riverbank is where two worlds touch. The crocodile does not pursue. On land, the game has changed. It knows its limits, just as the lions know theirs. The cub is breathing hard. The lioness begins licking the wound slowly, over and over again. Beneath the surface, the crocodile has already returned to its old position. Motionless, almost invisible. Nothing about it suggests failure. To a crocodile, waiting is never wasted. The entire attack lasted less than 15 seconds. But that was more than enough to leave a mark. Not in words, but in sensation, in instinct, in reflex. In the days that follow, the pride still has to return to the river, but not at dawn, and not so close to the edge. This is how knowledge passes through generations in the wild. Not through teaching, but through pain severe enough for the body to remember longer than any lesson ever could. The mistake that morning did not belong to the cub. It did not have enough information to understand what it was doing wrong. The mistake belonged to the moment of judgment, to 4 stacked disadvantages. A Nile crocodile can go a very long time without food. Waiting is not a choice for it. It is survival. Every time the lions return to the riverbank, to the crocodile, it is simply another opportunity. Lion cubs in the wild rarely survive their first year. Every injury lowers those odds. This cub may recover if infection does not set in. When drought lasts too long, species are forced to gather around the few water sources that remain. The distance between predator and prey shrinks, and encounters like this one become far more common. The striking thing is, neither side is wrong. The crocodile is only doing what it has always done. The lioness is too. In nature, there is no right or wrong, only outcomes. These two species have coexisted along Africa's rivers for millions of years, not because of peace, but because both sides understand the boundary. The lioness does not know exactly where she went wrong. She only knows what happened. And in this world, the result is the only lesson that lasts. The injured cub carries a lesson today that cannot be taught in safety. It may not understand it yet, but its body already remembers. And in the wild, that is enough. Mistake becomes data. Danger becomes knowledge. And that knowledge, if the cub survives long enough to use it, may become a lifelong survival advantage. The burden is not strength. It is responsibility. The lioness does not live only for herself. Every choice she makes affects her young. Survival is not about always winning. It is a chain of choices, mostly right, sometimes wrong. And one mistake at the wrong moment can change everything. The riverbank does not change after the pride leaves. The crocodile is still there. The water is flat again. Everything returns to normal, as if nothing ever happened. Tomorrow, the lions will come back, but not quite the same as today. The lioness will stand farther away, choose a different moment, keep the cubs closer, not because she has planned it, but because she remembers in her own way. And when dusk falls, the river will keep flowing as it always does. It holds no memory. Only the creatures who live beside it must remember, if they want to survive. Afternoon sun pours into the Luangwa River Gorge, murky yellow light illuminating vertical rock faces covered in damp moss where space is suspiciously silent. A few kingfishers dive to the water surface, then dart up, only wing beats echoing in the gorge's quietness. Everything else seemingly motionless. On the cliff edge, a lion pride stands close together, heads bowed observing, eyes not on the water, but focused on the individual in danger. Below, among smooth rocks near the water's edge, a lioness struggles to climb up, claws gripping the surface, but continuously slipping, getting closer to dangerous waters. Lions are large cats dominating many of Africa's dry ecosystems. With male lions weighing up to 180 kilograms, they top the food chain wherever they reach. But all those advantages are designed for flat terrain. On steep, slippery rock surfaces, features once advantageous become disadvantages. The lioness weighs about 130 kilograms, pulling her own body up the sloped face. Gravity quickly overwhelms pulling force, making efforts extremely exhausting. She fell while pursuing prey over the cliff edge, a small miscalculation leading to a long slide, placing her in a life-threatening situation. On the bank, the lion pride still observes. A low roar rings out, but no individual descends, because they know this rock face is a one-way trap. Below, the female tries to grip again. Front legs find footing, but the surface is unstable, pushing force insufficient to hold the body, and she slides down again. Distance to water surface continues closing. Current position not only disadvantageous in terrain, but also conceals another danger. A small ripple spreads from downstream, not from wind, not from current, but a sign of a creature slowly approaching. The lioness recognizes immediately. Eyes lock onto two black points floating on water surface. Alarm, instinct activates. Sounds emitted carry obvious tension. Two black points motionless like rotten logs gradually surfacing, but hidden below is a 4-meter body. The real danger has appeared. And it didn't come alone. Ripples appear from different directions, all heading toward the same point, the cliff base where the lion clings. To understand the danger below, one must know that the creature patiently waiting has existed millions of years, with body structure evolved optimally for hunting. Nile crocodiles reach 5 meters long and weigh over 700 kilograms, and possess bite force among the strongest of animals still existing on Earth. Their tactics rely on ambush, lying motionless for hours, then attacking extremely fast. optimizing energy and ensuring high success probability. After locking jaws, crocodiles drag prey underwater and perform the death roll, inflicting serious damage, and prey quickly loses resistance capability. They can fast for months. Each meal is a long-term investment, so when there's opportunity, they'll thoroughly consume prey. On the rock face, the lioness understands the situation clearly. Above is an unclimbable slope. Below is enemy territory. Now she's trapped between two threats. She moves horizontally along the narrow rock strip, seeking climbable points, each step carefully gripping wet rocks, eyes not leaving water surface. Each step is hope, but also risk. Below, the crocodile pod maintains stable distance, moving parallel. They're not rushing to approach, only maintaining position and waiting for more favorable conditions. The lion discovers a lower section of cliff, but must cross a 2-meter wide shallow water stretch, a short distance, but full of risk. She suddenly lunges down, racing quickly across the water. And in the same moment, a crocodile surges up. Jaws snap shut right where she just been left, only one beat late. The lion grips rocks on the other side, struggling to pull herself up. The crocodile watches from behind underwater. This time escaped, but terrain on this side still slippery and steep, no easier at all. She continues climbing short sections, then sliding down again. Each time losing momentum, position gets closer to water surface, and safe distance gradually closes. The third slip makes hind legs touch water. The lion flinches, jumping back up, but too late. A crocodile lunges, jaws reaching for hind legs. The lion roars, concentrates force on front legs as anchor points. Shoulder muscles tense, resisting overwhelming pulling force from water surface. The struggle increasingly intense. The crocodile bites and slips. The lion escapes. The lion springs onto the rock strip, breathing heavily, while the crocodile sinks, carrying anger. The lion gradually tires and cannot stay in one place long. For crocodiles, that's a signal. They adjust positions, tighten encirclement, distance only, meters remaining. The lioness has no choice left. Cannot climb up, cannot stay. Survival space shrinks by the minute. She moves faster, abandoning fear. Each step, each short leap utilizing every remaining foothold on the slippery rock strip. The crocodiles no longer wait. They simultaneously surge up when the lion crosses the narrow water section, jaws snapping shut consecutively in splashing water. The lion reaches the final rock outcrop. Ahead is the only gentle bank, but separated by a deep water section, while predators have closed in from behind. She looks at the shore, looks at the water surface, then looks at 3 shadows closing in and jumps down. 4 legs touch water. The lion begins swimming as fast as possible toward shore. Distance gradually from shore, legs still touching bottom. But behind, crocodiles are accelerating. The largest submerges, disappears. This is the most dangerous moment. The lion nearly reaches shore. Front legs grip earth, pulling body up, but injured hind leg lacks strength. making her slide down, and that's all the crocodile needs. From behind, a crocodile surges up and locks jaws onto the rear section. Massive pulling force jerks the lion back into the water. The second crocodile immediately lunges in, clamping tight on front shoulder. Two pulling forces from two directions make the lion sink half submerged. Only head and one front leg protruding. The death roll begins. Lion's body dragged completely under. Water surface churns violently, then gradually settles, returning to initial calm. Water surface returns to stillness. No more sounds or movement, only a few small ripples fading on the surface. The grassland ruler has sunk from here. Above, the lion pride stands silent. Calling sounds echo down, no response. Only wind blowing through the gorge echoes back. After several tries, they fall silent. After a few minutes, one by one, leaves the cliff edge. They leave without looking back. On the plains, prolonging loss is also putting oneself at risk. Below the Luangwa River, crocodiles drag prey to the deep bottom, holding it for natural decomposition process before beginning the meal. Nile crocodiles can fast for months, and today's meal is a 130-kilogram lioness, enough to feed them for many weeks. The confrontation closes according to environmental law. When entering water, advantage belongs to water-adapted creatures. On that territory, all land advantages lose value. The lion pride loses a member. Movement rhythm and behavior will change in following days, reflecting adjustment to risk. Dusk arrives. Landscape returns to familiar state, leaving almost no clear traces of the event just occurred. The lion pride stops to rest in tall grass area, far from the river. They lie closer together, the gap of one individual becoming obvious in the silent formation. Each encounter leaves marks in blood. Later decisions will change through reflexes formed from experience. Below the river, crocodiles continue moving slowly. Eyes, nose protruding, then sinking back. The observation cycle and endless patience count again from the start. In the Luangwa ecosystem, lions and crocodiles share the food chain apex, each species dominating half the world. When boundaries are erased, advantage belongs to the side adapting better to conditions at that moment. Each rainy season, water rises. Dry season, water recedes. Boundaries continuously change. Encounters repeat. No permanent winner, only temporary adaptation. Today's lioness didn't fail from lack of strength. On land, she's the ruler. But when conditions change, mass and body structure itself become disadvantages. Conversely, crocodiles don't need to be faster or stronger in all circumstances. They only need the right environment, where their advantages are maximized. Sun sets over Luangwa. On shore, lions rest in tall grass. Below water, crocodiles hide. Two parallel worlds, meters apart, but deciding survival. Tomorrow morning, though one individual fewer, the lion pride's rhythm doesn't stop. They'll avoid the riverbank, continue hunting on grasslands, and remember dangerous boundaries. Night wind blows through the gorge, carrying scents of mud and damp grass. Traces on rocks gradually disappear. Bank edge returns as before. Nature erases what once occurred. Under moonlight, crocodiles hide in flat water. In a world where mistakes mean endings, silence sometimes is the sign of danger itself. Through the ink-black water blanketing the tropical wetland, where the light of dawn barely reaches the grassy bank, an unusually loud splash rings out from the middle of the marsh. It is not a bass leaping to catch a mosquito, nor a branch falling from the forest canopy. It is the sound of a battle between two creatures, neither of whom has any concept of losing. Pantanal is not a nature reserve, not a national park. This is the largest wetland on Earth, and everything here is permitted to eat whatever it wants. Welcome to Pantanal, not the Amazon, not the Everglades. This is the largest tropical wetland ecosystem on the planet, spanning more than 150,000 square kilometers across 3 countries. A place where the flood season lasts 6 months, turning the entire floodplain into a shallow ocean. And when the water recedes, the endless battle for territory over every dry patch of ground begins. Here, humans are only passers-by. Pantanal has the highest jaguar density in the world, 1 per every 10 square kilometers. And you never see them before they see you. Before going deeper into this journey, if you carry within you a sense of awe before the apex predators, subscribe now so you never miss anything that lies ahead. Because what lies ahead is not an ordinary safari. This is where the largest predator in the Americas hunts the creature that every other species dares not touch. If Pantanal has a god, that god does not dwell on a mountaintop. That god lies beneath a tree at the riverbank, eyes closed, breathing slowly, already planning the next meal. Weighing 120 kilograms with the strongest bite force among the big cats, the jaguar does not bite the throat of its prey like a lion. It bites straight through the skull, one strike, finished without a struggle. The jaguar is the top-down controller of the entire Pantanal ecosystem. Without the jaguar, caiman populations explode, fish decline, and the underwater food chain collapses layer by layer. The Kunkum. The Pantanal jaguar has evolved to do what no other jaguar does: hunt caiman underwater. They do not fear the water, do not fear caiman. They actively swim into the channels and select their prey before diving. Once a target is chosen, the jaguar does not attack from the water. It swims around, climbs the opposite bank, then creeps down to approach from the direction of the caiman's head, the one point where the caiman cannot react in time. But the Pantanal jaguar is steadily losing its territory. Deforestation for cattle ranching has destroyed 30% of Pantanal in 50 years. And without buffer forest, jaguars have nowhere safe to breed. Each jaguar needs 50 to 150 square kilometers of territory to survive. When land is fragmented, they are forced onto farms, attacking livestock, and humans begin to see them as enemies to be eliminated. The jaguar disappears into the shadows of the forest. Pantanal draws a long breath, and beneath the water, Something that has existed since the Jurassic begins to stir. Caiman do not need to intimidate. They only need to exist, and the existence of 10 million caiman across Pantanal is already a declaration powerful enough for any creature that dares set foot in the water. The Yacare caiman, the signature species of Pantanal, can reach 3 meters in length, weigh 60 kilograms, with a bite force strong enough to crush the bones of a piranha. But their true strength lies in numbers, not size. Caiman are the recycling machines of Pantanal. They consume dead fish and animal carcasses and control piranha population density, helping sustain the diversity of 400 fish species within this ecosystem. Caiman do not waste energy. During the day, they bask in the sun, absorbing heat, not to rest, but to charge their energy reserves for nighttime hunts in total darkness. When night falls, caiman switch to an entirely different mode. Eyes glowing red in the darkness, they glide across the water without making a sound, waiting for anything that steps into their zone. Despite their large numbers, Pantanal caiman were once nearly driven to extinction in the 1980s due to the hide trade. They recovered thanks to legal protection, but now prolonged drought is draining their habitat. And the caiman themselves, a species that survived the Jurassic, now face an enemy that no evolution has prepared them for: rising temperatures that alter the sex ratio of their eggs, pushing entire populations toward gender imbalance. The caiman slides into the water, the river surface goes flat again, and from upstream, a wave begins to spread. Not a wave of water, but a wave of sound from a species that never hunts alone. If the jaguar is the solitary god, and the caiman is the silent army, then the giant otter is the noisiest warrior tribe in Pantanal, the only species that does not need to be silent to be dangerous. Measuring 1.8 meters in length and weighing 32 kilograms, the Pantanal giant otter is the largest otter species in the world. And they do not hesitate to confront caiman to defend their territory or protect the young of their group. The giant otter is the health indicator of Pantanal. They only exist where the water is clean and fish are plentiful. When otters disappear from a stretch of river, it is a sign that the ecosystem there is collapsing. Giant otters hunt through a collective encirclement strategy. An entire group of 8 to 16 individuals forms a circle underwater, driving fish into the center and taking turns diving in. No individual eats alone while the group is still hungry. And when a caiman enters the group's territory, the otters do not flee. They surround the caiman, calling loudly, darting in to bite and pulling back until the caiman retreats in confusion and pain. Only around 5,000 giant otters remain across all of South America. Mercury pollution from illegal gold mining is accumulating in fish, their only food source. The calls of the otter group fade into the distance. Pantanal slows its breathing, and in that silence, 3 separate stories begin to converge at a single point. But the true story of Pantanal is not the story of each species in isolation. It is the story of what happens when 3 different rulers are forced to share the same river. The jaguar eats caiman. The otters chase caiman. But caiman do not disappear because Pantanal needs them. And both jaguar and otter understand this limit, even without any language to express it. This is Pantanal's contested shallows. Where the flood season recedes, fish are concentrated into ever smaller pools, and everything converges at the same point. Who arrives first? Who is strong enough? Who is smart enough? And this is the moment Pantanal becomes truly dangerous. Not because of a single predator, but because all of them are here at the same time, including the jaguar, standing on the bank and beginning to calculate. The jaguar selects the largest caiman, not because it is the easiest to attack, but because it is the only meal worth the effort. This is not instinct. This is the thinking of a creature at the top of the food chain. The caiman has no idea. It is eating fish. Its head lifts only to swallow, and that is the one mistake it is allowed to make today. The jaguar lunges. Not from the bank, from within the water. It had silently slipped into the river 30 seconds earlier without creating a single ripple. The caiman reacts by reflex, tail thrashing, body twisting, jaws snapping shut. But the jaguar has already locked its jaws onto the fatal point. And from that moment on, the outcome is only a matter of time. The otter group hears the commotion and does not move away, but moves closer. Not to help the jaguar, not to help the caiman. They come because where a caiman dies, fish will gather. Opportunity waits for no one. The jaguar drags the caiman onto the bank. This meal weighs almost as much as the jaguar itself. But the Pantanal jaguar never abandons unfinished food. It will return again and again until there is nothing left to return to. The otters immediately occupy the now empty water point. Not a second of hesitation. And here, Pantanal reveals itself most clearly. There is no room for kindness, but also no room for waste. And the loser will become part of Pantanal in an entirely different way. Not as a predator, but as the nutrients feeding the food chain below. Everything you have just witnessed is not cruelty. It is the language of an ecosystem refined over 65 million years. Every death is a meal. Every meal is a new cycle of life. The jaguar controls the caiman. The caiman controls the fish. The otters keep both sides in check. And all of them together control something more important than any single species: the quality of the river flowing through this land. Pantanal holds 25% of South America's surface freshwater. It sustains more than 1,000 species of birds, 400 species of fish, 300 species of reptiles, and millions of people who depend on its water. And when one link disappears, when the jaguar is gone, when the otters are gone, it is not just Pantanal that loses a species. It is 25% of a continent's surface freshwater that loses its guardian. But the most dangerous creature in Pantanal cannot swim, cannot run fast enough, has no fangs or claws. The most dangerous one arrives on bulldozers, and no species can evolve fast enough to adapt. In the past 50 years, Pantanal has lost more than 30% of its area to agriculture and cattle ranching. And the fire season of 2020 burned another 30% in a single dry season alone, the worst on record in recorded history. Illegal gold mining pours mercury into the rivers. Pesticides from soybean fields seep into the groundwater. And the giant otter, the most sensitive species of all, is the first to fall when the water begins to be poisoned. And the price to be paid is not only nature's to bear. When Pantanal dies, when the wetlands dry up, when the rivers are contaminated, 15 million people in Brazil, Bolivia, and Paraguay will lose a source of fresh water that nothing can replace. The question that remains is not what we have witnessed. It is, when all these rulers are gone, what will we use to replace 65 million years of evolution? What will we have left when Pantanal is no longer the green lung of South America? When the last ruler hunts the last prey on the last remaining piece of land? Pantanal is still here, still breathing, still holding within it the answer to the million-year question. But the time we have left to listen to that answer grows shorter every day. If this journey has made it impossible for you to look at a puddle, a river, or a forest with the same eyes as before, leave a comment below. Pantanal needs more than people who know its name. And until next time, at the next brutal survival arenas, where nature does not allow you to be a spectator, there are only two choices: understand or disappear. Dawn settles gently over the Pantanal wetlands, the still water carpeted in green duckweed. Somewhere birdsong drifts through the canopy, a dragonfly lands softly on a water lily. But that tranquility is only a surface. Just beneath the duckweed, an anaconda lies concealed, its enormous body dissolving into the mud without a trace. At the western marsh edge, a capybara herd wades into shallow water to graze. The largest rodents in the world, they move slowly, each step sinking deep into the mud. One capybara separates a few steps from the group, lowering its muzzle to graze at the mud's edge. Every heavy footfall sends a vibration down precisely to where the anaconda is hidden. Picking up the signal, the anaconda glides forward without a ripple, closing the distance from 2 meters to 1. It does not lunge, only presses silently closer. The marsh surface explodes. The anaconda surges upward, coiling around the prey's body and squeezing tight. A scream tears through the air, and the entire herd scatters. The capybara thrashes desperately, but every struggle only drives it deeper into the mud. No footing, no escape. Its strength has become useless. The anaconda does not need to crush bones. It locks around the entire chest cavity. Each time the lungs collapse, the coils tighten 1 more degree until no breath can enter at all. The capybara lies still in the shallow mud. The anaconda loosens its coils, turns the carcass to face its mouth, the two halves of the jaw separating, alternating to draw the meal inside. The anaconda lies half submerged in mud, belly distended, eyes half closed. But the marsh does not only hide danger beneath the mud, it also hides those that wait on the branches above. At the eastern marsh edge, the water is shallower and clearer. A heron wades slowly through the water, neck drawn in, eyes tracking each fish shadow, then suddenly drives its beak downward. After catching several fish, it flies back to a low nest branch at the water's edge, where its entire brood is waiting to be fed. But directly below the branch, where mud meets water, a pair of eyes silently rises to the surface. A black caiman has been lying in ambush for some time, waiting for anything that might fall within reach. The heron leans forward to feed its young. One chick loses its balance and tumbles off the edge into the mud. The caiman immediately lunges, biting across the body and thrashing violently. A wing snaps crooked, legs hang limp. The caiman drags its prey down into the murky water. The surface bubbles for a few seconds, then flattens. Only a few white feathers bobbing at the bank's edge remain. The heron is barely a snack for the nearly 2-meter body. The caiman raises its eyes again and waits for the next opportunity. Along the northern bank, a larger shape is moving. That is far more worthwhile prey, but this time the other has something the heron did not. Long legs, and the marsh is about to switch sides. At midday, a marsh deer grazes at the water's edge. Its wide splayed hooves, like paddles, turn the deadly mudflat into its own home ground. The caiman weaves beneath the duckweed, eyes locked on the deer. It slides out of the water, belly skimming the mud, quietly closing the distance from 10 meters to 5. The deer raises its head and spots the hunter, but instead of bolting toward hard ground, it turns and runs straight into the shallow open water of the marsh, where the further the caiman chases, the slower it becomes. What seemed like the caiman's domain turns out to be a reverse trap. Without enough water to swim, it flounders in the soft mud, unable to keep pace with the splaying feet ahead. The caiman stops in the middle of the mud pool, watching the prey disappear with nothing it can do. Drawn away from deep water, the fearsome predator is reduced to a heavy body run aground. The deer pauses in the shallows, glances back unhurriedly, then lowers its head to graze on duckweed. In the distance, the caiman quietly slides back toward deeper water, leaving behind the mud that just betrayed it. The caiman sinks to the bottom, hunger still unanswered. The heron too small, the deer too quick. Then a new vibration moves through the water, heavy, slow, steady footfalls. The deer just escaped through the advantage of its own body. But the creature now approaching the western bank is an entirely different opponent. A stocky, South American peccary pushing heavily through the grass at the marsh edge. On firm ground, it could outpace the caiman with ease. But the moment those short legs touch the soft mud, every advantage instantly disappears. The distance closes without the prey realizing it. The caiman stops 2 meters away, more patient than ever. This time, it is determined not to strike too early. When the peccary lifts a leg to step back, the mud grips it for half a second. That is all the caiman needed. It launches upward, clamps onto the leg, and yanks the prey hard toward the water. The caiman drags its prey down into the murky water, then pins it firmly to the bottom. The duckweed slowly closes over the surface, and before long the marsh is flat and still again. This time the caiman feeds. From the small heron to the deer that escaped to the peccary that sank. In this marsh, it is the terrain that decides who survives. The bank lies quiet. The anaconda stretches its swollen belly to the west. The caiman rests fed beneath the water. The deer grazes far off on duckweed, and a few heron feathers drift on the surface. The afternoon sun drops low over the Pantanal, black clouds gathering along the western horizon. The rainy season is coming, and when it arrives, the marsh will rewrite every rule that held today. Rain pours down, each heavy drop striking the marsh surface into countless rings of ripple. Duckweed bobs, mud loosens, and the boundary between bank and water gradually disappears. Rising water swallows the familiar mud edges. The hollow where the anaconda hid is now submerged. The spot where the heron fell has merged into the current, and the mud hole that trapped the peccary is flat and gone. The old mud thins away, new mud invading the firm ground. The peccary's safe zone shrinks. The caiman's hunting range spreads wider. The balance of the morning has shifted direction. Carried by the rising water, the anaconda drifts to a deeper mud hole. Its old hiding place is gone. A new one forms, forcing every prey animal to relearn where the safe boundaries lie. The water surface is wider now. With every inch the water rises, the distance from the marsh surface to firm ground grows shorter, narrowing the retreat of every prey. The marsh deer stands in the shallows. Wherever the water rises, the strip of ground at the marsh edge retreats with it, closing the escape route of every creature that relies on it. Tomorrow, all creatures will return to their familiar paths along the marsh. But every mud edge, every stretch of bank has quietly shifted after one night of rain. The shallow water that once saved the deer is deeper now. The mud that once concealed the anaconda has drifted elsewhere. Everything that seemed familiar has already changed. The caiman raises both eyes above the water surface again, waiting for the first vibration. A new day of hunting begins on a marsh that is now entirely different. Because in the Pantanal, the one that endures is not the strongest. It is the one that reads the land the fastest. A land that never stays the same 2 days in a row.